and I have with me Nandita, who runs practice. And as I usually do, you will not get too much of an introduction to her. You will get to know her through the conversation. But I just want to set the stage for the conversation today. So, this is part of a series of interviews we are doing about INKWomen. We are interviewing 49 women from different fields about their personal as well as professional journeys, which will result in a book as well. And we hope everybody online gets to participate, ask questions, etc. There is a Q&A section. You can feel free to post there. It's a very casual conversation. For a minute, we are going to forget you're all there, and Nandita and I are going to have a great conversation and then open for your questions. And the whole idea is that what are some of the pointers maybe or insights you can get out of this that you can use to further your own professional as well as personal life that'll help you be professionally successful. At the core of our idea of our conversations is how to keep women economically independent and professionally successful in whatever way they choose. So that's the crux of the conversation. So with that, I'll start my conversation with Nandita. Nandita, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here. You usually travel between Bangalore and Delhi and many other places managing your business. So it's wonderful that we both are in the same city in the same
I
time zone
know.
for a change.
I know. And yet on screen, that's the
Yet on
sad
screen,
part.
I mean, this is the new world, right?
This is a new world. Yes.
So, so I thought, Nandita, we'll dive into your professional life a little bit first, and so at sort of for most of us, turn of the millennium was it marked steps in many ways, and for you, it's about starting practice. I think you started it in 2000 with just a small team and some 35,000 rupees savings. And I must say, at that time, it's not that you were in a place where you needed to do the job to support yourself or anything. You were in a comfortable position at home, but you decided to do something on your own. This is before the word entrepreneurship was
Mhm.
popular, and you started it at that time. So tell me a little bit about that move. And I always say that any bold move that we talk about, etc., you don't think of it as bold at that time. It's something you just decide to do. But what is it that drove you to do this?
So, Lakshmi, great to be in conversation with you. And you're so right. You're so right in so many ways about, not realizing that it was a bold move. But then way back then, entrepreneurship was never eulogized the way it is today, right? It
Yeah.
was, and I always say that I loved what I did. 6 years prior to that, since 93, I had ventured and forayed into public relations, which 33 years later is still the love of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I must say that this is really what has made me who I am today in many
Mm,
ways.
mm,
And also allowed me the means to kind of live the life that I wanted to lead, right? So it opened so many doors for me, public relations, from the time I started my career. And this is why I always say that, choose. Well, I don't think I chose, but the first job that you have is
mhm,
not just a job. There's so many takeaways,
mhm,
especially if you work with visionaries, if you work with honest people, if you work with true professionals who have the interest of their business and the industry at large in their heart foremost, and the business comes secondary. And of course, the time. I mean, I entered public relations when liberalization happened in 93. And
correct.
therefore, the kind of people that we worked with, the kind of businesses that we had the chance to launch, I think made me starry eyed as a young professional. And so when I quit Genesis, which was, I think, one of the best platforms for anyone to launch their career in public relations,
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of, because of my love for what I did,
Mm-hmm.
naturally moved into consulting and starting with one or two clients,
Mm-hmm.
spending a few hours with them. And then, of course, realizing that there was something more to it, and therefore there is potential for to start a business. And
Mm-hmm.
it's actually lonely just trying to do it all on your own. So why not have a small team with you?
Mm-hmm.
And my then, ex-husband, my then husband, Sharon, who's no more, is the one who nudged me. He came from an industrial family, and a family-owned business. And he's the one who said, why don't you do something on your own? Never had occurred to me because I come from a family of journalists and
Yeah.
professionals. So it never even occurred to me. For me, it was from one job to the other. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how the practice happened. And it's 25 years into starting
Yes.
my
Yeah.
the firm.
Yeah.
And it's just been a great journey.
Yeah. So I want to take off a little bit about what Sharon said to you. And because there's a lot of women who are in a position, I mean, Sharon's from a fairly well-to-do family. Even if you didn't work, you were okay. You really didn't have to work. But to have a partner who supported you, who asked you to be on your own, and even after you separated, you raised your child well, you're extremely close to his family even now. And I think marriage plays a very big role in in whatever you become as a person, whether you're together or not. So I want you to talk a little bit about that in terms of how do you blend in marriage and profession, because a lot of women feel that it's sometimes a choice, it's one or
Yeah.
the other, and it has its ups and downs, ins and outs, and things that work, don't work, all these kinds of stuff. So I mean, I just want to summarize that you've managed a relationship beyond marriage and the relationship beyond marriage in professionally also. So tell a little bit about that balance.
It I always believed, Lakshmi, and more so I believe today as I work with young female colleagues, that conditioning actually starts from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with marriage. It's a social conditioning, it's a familial conditioning. And I
Mm-hmm.
come from a family where we had one, in those days, we called them breadwinner, which was my dad, a journalist. There wasn't much to be offered for journalists in those days. We were three of us. Our parents were raising three kids. And there was one point where, which my mother said to us, we were two girls, and I have two sisters and a brother, and she told us that you should never be in any given point of your life at a stage where you have to ask for money of anyone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she was very clear that we would not get married till we knew what economic independence meant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that is the best and biggest gift that we
Yeah.
could have got. And credit to my father, who never interfered in our upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he trusted my mother so much that even if we went to him asking for something, he'd say, what did Amma say?"
Mm-hmm.
And if her
Yeah.
answer was a no, it's a no.
Yeah.
And I think that understanding between them, just made the lines very clear.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that I also had such a dream burst into a career, I think all of that came together to say that, tell me and want me to do more. So it was never an option not to
Mm-hmm.
work. I mean,
Yeah.
it just is so much in my DNA to be economically independent and fend for myself. That was
Mm-hmm.
never an option. And I'm beginning to tell my colleagues today that before you negotiate about balance, flexibility at work, negotiate at home first.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Does your family want to see, first, do you want to see yourself work,
Mm-hmm.
right? And build a life that is hinged on your career and economic independence. Does your family want to support that?
Mm-hmm.
Once that is firm, then you come and negotiate at the workplace. Otherwise, it's very one-sided, Lakshmi.
Yeah, yeah. And also, Nandita, in terms of I've seen it happen when women get married. Somehow there is another switch that happens, and they feel that, oh, if person has to stay home, then it should be me. Or do my in-laws accept? And I've had some women, I talk to
Yeah.
them, and they say, like in your case also, for example, they say, we have a family business. Why don't you work there? Why do you need to do something separate? So, how do you separate yourself from marriage? And especially when you have children. I mean, I see so many women put their hand up even before they're asked to say, I'll stay home. So, how do you separate yourself from? Is it something you should negotiate even before going into marriage that, hey, are the in laws going to support or not? What did you do?
No, there was, I knew what I was getting into. And Lakshmi, I've always held myself accountable for my choices.
Yeah,
It's never the other.
correct.
If,
Yeah.
if I want to do something and I
Mm-hmm.
have education
Mm-hmm.
and I have a fairly solid upbringing, then I hold myself accountable for all the choices that I make in my life.
All right.
And I
Yeah.
think that has helped me a lot, in less finger pointing at
Mm-hmm.
external and extraneous circumstances and
Mm-hmm.
more looking into myself. And it's amazing how all the solutions have arisen within me. And let me
Mm-hmm.
tell you, it's not been hunky-dory. There has been
Yes.
resistance, there has been pushback. I
Yeah.
have made wrong choices in this,
Yeah.
right? I have felt guilty. Um, but at the same time, I think if someone else has accepted me, then they have to give me the space to be who I am.
Yeah.
And that is so supremely important for me as a person. And
Mm-hmm.
I do tell everyone that I work with, etc., to create that space, and demand that people who they are with also accept them for
Mm-hmm.
their dreams and for what they want to be. So there was, I knew this was the path that I had chosen. I
Mm-hmm.
still hadn't done everything in public relations that I wanted to do. It's such a vast discipline,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore, there was no question of kind of me giving up one for the other. And the other thing, which sometimes in hindsight I feel that I'm too rigid about, is to keep my personal and professional lives separate,
Mm-hmm.
very
Yeah.
separate, very distinct.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether there's good or bad, but that's who I am. And
Yeah.
I've done that all my working life, but it's been difficult for people, that I don't mix the two.
In what way? I mean, is it that you will never have your colleagues to come home, or what does keeping it separate mean? Because I have a real hard time with it because it's all, we are working, especially with this Zoom, this, that, it seems like if there's anything, there's a more mix. What does keeping it separate mean? Just summarizing a little
Yeah.
bit of what you said, Nandita, in terms of it's important as mothers, as aunts, as godmothers, or whatever, it's important for us to raise the children with everybody wanting to be economically independent, doesn't matter girls or boys, and to really inculcate that. Just as you said about your mom, my father was very clear with all three of us that you have to get your master's degree, you have to have a profession, you should always be able to be economically independent. If you choose to stay home, it's up to you. I can't say anything, but you have to have the capability to go out and get a job and be on your own. And it was
And Lakshmi,
always,
isn't that beautiful?
yeah,
It's so beautiful because,
yeah,
and my father also, we came from limited means, limited,
right.
but I think we lived good lives. I think we were
Yes,
very
yeah,
content as a
same, yeah,
family. I mean, my parents were very content as people, but they
yeah,
were very clear of what they could offer us and what they couldn't.
correct, yeah.
And therefore, the message also was very clear. Look, we give you a good education.
Mm-hmm.
After that, you make your life.
Yes, yeah.
And,
And
so
also,
I
it's
think
very
that also,
interesting. There is never expectation that you have to take care of us. My father never said, you have to take care of me. It's like, you have to take care of yourself, you know.
Lakshmi, that is so amazing that you bring up. My son
Yeah,
is now 23. He starts his career in a
yeah,
week's time. And one of the things I told him was the best gift my parents gave me was the
yeah.
20 to 25 years of space where
Correct.
they
Yeah.
let me do what I wanted to do as a parent, as a professional, as a wife, and never had any expectation. I know there were times when my father fell sick, but we never knew about it, till he
Yeah.
was fine. So there was nothing, drop
Yeah.
everything and come and take care of us. Or, they saved enough to live a comfortable life, the way they
Yeah.
will always live without any expectation of us. And somewhere, we never took it on ourselves
Hmm.
to also impose a lot of the things just because we were doing well on our parents. Like, come and
Hmm.
live with us, or let me take
Yeah.
you for this vacation, or let me do
Yeah.
that, and let me do this, right? So I think somewhere there was a certain detachment in our
Yeah.
relationship, which I think was beautiful because it gave so
Yeah.
much space for all of us to do
Yeah,
our
and
bit.
everything is out of choice, not out of obligation. Like when my dad would come to US, stay with me for 3 to 6 months, we would travel or whatever. It was it was not out of obligation, out of choice. And I think it's extremely important. We both have single child, single boys,
Yes, yes.
and I think it's important to for them also to know that there's no expectation out of you. And I told my son also, for the first 25 years, do whatever you want to do. You'll be successful in some, not successful in the other. Try everything. Then you're on your own, you know. And even now to say, hey, we'll give you your expenses, all the extra stuff you want, you earn on your own. Like my job is to take care of the basic necessities. And I want to continue a little bit more on the professional side, Nandita. We were talking about what does keeping professional and personal separate mean? What does it mean?
It means that I'm very particular about my work schedule. And in the early days, let me start from the early days. Today it's different because, like I said, I'm back to being 25, Lakshmi. My son is
Yeah,
23. He's
yeah,
doing very well. He's independent. Mom is doing fine. So
yeah.
I feel I'm footloose and fancy free all
Yeah,
over
single
again.
and young and footloose and fancy free. Yeah.
All right. So,
Yeah.
um, so from that perspective, it was about, and I started the practice, all my work, it was 9 to 6. You work a certain amount of time. Um, and the energy of youth, where you could work 15 hours, sleep for 4 hours, and then get on a early morning flight to be in another city, start your day at 6 a.m. That was amazing, right? And
Yeah.
then kind of when I had Aryaman and the practice, I started the practice 2 years before Aryaman was born.
Mhm.
And Aryaman brought a little bit of discipline into my work life, where I
Uh-huh.
said, okay, I do want to spend time with him. And that's
Yeah.
where I get so much of joy. So I kind of said, okay, I'm going to work no more than 8 to 9 hours, right?
Yeah.
And you plan your travel. You plan your schedules, you plan your travel, and that my professional network is my professional network. Even today, I do not call any of my clients my friends. They are my clients.
Yeah.
Or the media, my friends, they are the media. There are boundaries. There are
Yeah.
boundaries. I would think I'm very professional. I am my warm self, but I
Yeah.
think my relationship with them is for a reason,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's about fulfilling that reason. But when, my personal life is very different.
Right.
I may have my passions, I may have my hobbies, and I do
Mhm.
want to devote equal amount of time to that. And I need my downtime. So that's
Mhm.
really where I keep my professional and my personal. I do not work with family. That was very clear. Friends
Mhm.
and family are a big no. I would never bring them into the practice. That was also a bone of contention with Sharon and
Yeah.
I. Though he really was, he would be, he played a very significant role in bringing in fiscal discipline into the practice. He was a director in the practice for as long as he was around. But beyond that, decision making about the business was never something that I discussed at home.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And it was a bone of contention because,
Mhm.
being a family-owned business, they never really understood why this boundary, right? But I have
Mhm.
never brought family and friends into work.
Mhm.
And Very rarely have I brought friends from the other side into my life.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by clear boundaries, Lakshmi. And I think that's helped me in good stead.
And I want to talk a little bit about keeping up with new times, kind of a thing. I mean, if you think back, you were a three-person company who won Infosys account after a 30-minute pitch, and you were one of the only PR companies that was, featured in the first PR agency to be shortlisted listed for Cannes Lions Awards, for the campaign you did on Right to Read. There were so many firsts, so many things you have done. And what is the insight you got from there that helps you to keep up with modern times? If you look at your 25-year journey, I mean, it's actually in this last 25 years, the most dramatic change has happened in the world, I think, in these last 25 years. When you started, there was no social media. There was people, we didn't even, there was no internet, forget social media, right? There's internet, there's social media, there's AI, there is so much e-commerce, there is robotics, there's just so many things that have happened. So in what way have you kept up with either the kind of clients you acquire or the kind of services you provide? Tell how you keep up with all these things and still stay ahead and be that agile company that gets the biggest account with a 30-minute pitch and be featured in all these international awards. You're on the jury, PR jury for Lions Gone, etc. So tell me a little bit about how do you move into modern times?
I think it's never to take yourself seriously. And it starts there. Uh, and I think it's a learning mindset. And that's the beauty about being in public relations, Lakshmi. You
Yeah.
know, uh, you are surrounded by just the most amazing people if you decide to choose that company.
Mm-hmm.
And very on, I realized that the sector, the public relations industry, even when I set up in 2000, was nascent.
Mm-hmm.
There were quite a few large firms by then, but it was still nascent.
Mm-hmm.
And so how would I keep the practice differentiated?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I feel somewhere what I studied in PR, and I was so starry-eyed by what I studied academically about public relations. And then I got to experience that in practice. And I said, oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, there is still so much to be achieved if you want to live true to the definition of public relations.
Yeah.
And then I said, what is it that could differentiate us? It's not just the clients. Everyone will win clients, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, there were two or three things that we decided from the beginning. One was we will grow through retention of clients. That means we will choose our clients really carefully so that we can grow with them, you know and that would be so it involved saying no to companies, but choosing and giving your best fight to win the ones that you really wanted. The second was there could be no cookie cutter approach to our strategy, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore we really deep dived into businesses, the context of those businesses, and would come up with these really good insights, to have a very differentiated strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, so these was, some of the fundamentals. And then, of course, our vision, our dream, because I've always believed that public relations is more than just being visible. It is a management discipline. It must have a seat at the table. And I remember, writing this down when I set up the practice to say, we will take public relations to the boardroom, and that's where we want to be. We want to be a partner to the CEO or the decision makers of
Mm-hmm.
institutions, of organizations, of businesses. And I
Mm-hmm.
think somewhere these three just stuck from the very beginning. And I'm very proud. And even today, those are relevant,
Mm-hmm.
Lakshmi. Even
Yeah.
today, those are relevant. So I
Yeah.
think those are some of the key, and also choose your clients who push the boundaries. And therefore, Infosys was more than just Infosys for us, Lakshmi. Imagine, I keep telling them we worked with them for 14 odd years, but we worked with the founders for the Infosys Science Foundation for another 4 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And what was beautiful is that when you observe, you're not just managing the client, but you're observing them for who they
Right.
are. And, I wanted to kind of absorb so many of their governance practices into the practice. I know it was ambitious. Everyone said, you're just a small little,
Yeah.
few crores of a business, but why do you want to do quarterly audits for
Yeah.
your governance? And why do you want to do all of that? But I said, my God, you're representing the India's finest company when it comes to corporate governance as their
Mm-hmm.
PR firm, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have to be out there when it comes to integrity and ethics.
Yeah.
And, so we learned a lot from the clients that we worked with, not merely as from the PR perspective, but I think as to how to be as
Mm-hmm.
businesses and
So to
organizations.
summarize, Nandita, I want to say the three things you said is that one is choose the client carefully. I mean, take the time in choosing the clients. Second thing you said was retention of clients. It's not just let's get 10 new ones, but how can we have go deeper with the same ones? And then you said you evolve, you grow with, there's no cookie cutter model. You grow with them. Whatever they need, you grow with them. And the last thing you said is to have a seat at the table. It's a CEO decision. It's the top management. You don't want somebody who says work with somebody who works with me to just do something. You have to be that
Yeah.
strategic advance. These are the four main things you said. And the one thing I do want that undercuts everything you said, not just this, but in general, is like uh, put in everything you have the curiosity, have the learning mindset, go all out, and yet don't take yourself seriously all the time. I mean, don't think you're the only one who has to solve the whole world's problems. And yes, you'll make mistakes. Yes, you may get it sometimes, you may not get it. But if you're in the company of people who are willing to travel with you, it's okay, you'll make some mistakes. Then you just grow together. So the last question I want to ask you before I open up a little bit is about what was some of the major mistakes you made? Not mistakes, like sometimes when you said, oh my God, I thought it would happen this way. Because otherwise, it seems like a 25-year-old fantastic honeymoon with no problems so far, right? But entrepreneurial journey is anything but that. So in this 25 years, you had to manage company growing bigger, smaller, multi-city, this, that, kid, husband, divorce, this thing, French. I mean, there's so many things that also happened like there is COVID, there is internet, there is, like the 25 years of your profession has been the most tumultuous in every possible way in the world as well. So, when you come across a really difficult situation, like where you feel, how am I going to get through it? Is it that you have a standard set of people you reach out within yourself, or you write? What is it that you do uh, when you're in a situation that feels, how do I get past?
I get I get maximum clarity in solitude, Lakshmi.
Yeah,
So when you see me completely withdraw, then one is I think I'm battling something,
yeah,
something big
yeah.
that I'm struggling to find a solution for.
Uh-huh.
But it's quite amazing that within the pathways you have in yourself, you do come across, you can part the thickets and you do come across, clear pathways. And for me, I think that is a big way in which I find solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've always been lucky to have those few people around me who I know who are possibly silent spectators, but
Yeah,
they are there for me. And
yeah.
just their presence in my life sees me through, I think, the
Mm-hmm.
worst times. So
Mm-hmm.
that is something. And I'll tell you, COVID, we'd gone, I think the business had gone through its worst time pre-COVID, about 2 years, 2 years before. And there was a huge cleanup that we had to do. And I had taken a sabbatical for 4, 5 years. And I came back into the business at also a time where I think my entire personal life was completely upended. So it was just too much going on at that time. But those 18 months, I don't know, there was and this is something I want to say, Lakshmi. I think in times like this, I didn't know I had this level of resilience and this much of courage and strength to cope with something like this. But I did. And I say this as plainly as can be said, right? I don't mean there are no layers to what I'm saying right now, but it's incredible to know that you have that level of
Capability
courage within
within you.
oneself. Now, COVID happened, and it seemed to be the easiest thing. I mean, for the world, I know it was terrible, but I'm now, and I shrink my universe, right? When you're in a problems like this, you got to shrink your universe to
Yeah.
what the real problem is. And for me, it was, how do I manage 80 people, their salaries, their families? How do I keep my business afloat? And given that that was the only thing that I had for myself, in that sense, ensuring the practice stays afloat was also taking care of myself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And I must say, I think within 3 months, I remember doing a town hall in July um, and of 2020 and telling my team, our business is solid. There are very one or two clients that have paused because we cleaned up the business before that. So what
mm-hmm,
we were left with during COVID was a clean business,
mm-hmm,
and said that it's going to be business as usual, where increments are concerned, where supporting all of you are concerned, where work is concerned. So
mm-hmm.
all of you can relax and not worry of that ambiguity. I can save you that. Now you
Yeah,
take care of yourselves and the work.
correct,
So you
correct.
see, when you shrink your universe and only focus on the problem
Mm-hmm.
and just do what you can do, I think it simplifies life a lot. And that's really been my mantra for
Yeah,
dealing with the tough times.
yeah. So I want to take a question that Tripti has asked, about keeping she said, can we talk more about keeping personal and professional separate, which we did. The question she's saying that his young mother recently started a new company, struggling with managing time, not spending enough time with my son. So any roadmap for this situation, that, repositioning it in my own and in her own mind. So I'll let you answer
So
and I'll answer. Yeah.
what I did was, I calibrate. So if it's my own, it was my own business. The practice was in its early years. I had a fantastic team, fantastic of young team members, all their first jobs, and they were outstanding. And look, you can calibrate your expectations of your business because it's yours.
Yeah.
And so therefore it was not about, I want to have that, I want to be double my revenue, I want to do this and I want to do that. How do you create a kind of a structure that allows everyone to stay within that? And Lakshmi, over the years, I've understood there are 24 hours in a day, and sometimes we try and fit in 48 hours into a, you know, 14-hour day, because technically 8 hours you got to sleep, right?
Right. Yeah.
So and I think that is really one way in which you can say that I have 14 hours in a day. I need sanity for myself.
Hmm.
I'm taking care of a child. And therefore, what is it that can allow me for an 8-hour work day? And what is it that I can do? And I think doesn't work for everyone if you have huge expectations or the sector you are in. But with me working up, starting a public relations firm, having a young child, that worked really well. And I made it work for me. So that helped.
Yeah. And I do want to say that I think you have to make certain choices. There was when I was starting my career, one of the women professionals said this, that, marriage, child, profession, you can't be A plus in all three at
Hmm.
every given point of time. You have to just say, as you're saying, okay, right now I have two employees. I want to have enough money for myself and my employees. I'll just take only that many clients and I will do this. Or
Yeah.
in my case, what I said was, when I had my child, my husband told me, Lakshmi, please don't stay home because you'll go nuts, you'll drive me nuts. So whatever money you make,
Yeah.
you spend it on nannies or whatever, but just go to work. So that's what I did for the first 3 years of my child's life. Everywhere I traveled, my nanny and my son traveled with me. And I spent the money on that. I had zero savings, so everything went to that. So I think, especially women, we carry too much guilt. I think, first of all, to say, I'm going to take care of myself and I'm not going to feel guilty. Yes, if I'm not home, And if somebody else has to take care of the kid and the kid has fever and I happen to be out of town, don't be guilty, like take care. Somebody, you got to trust others to take care of things also. You're not the end all and be all for everything. So I think what you said is important, and I want to underline that you can't be best at everything all the time at the same time. So it's okay to say, I'll keep my business small, but I'm going to do this. Once my kid goes to school, I'll do this, whatever, make your choices. But the most important thing is to give that freedom to yourself in your own mind. If you are apologetic about what you want in your own mind, you can never get the support from everybody else. You have to be completely unapologetic about what you want. And then everybody else will line up with you. But I think you have to be very
Yeah.
clear what you want.
Yeah. And Lakshmi,
Yeah.
I think be comfortable. I think it's important to be comfortable with who you are because the decisions that, say, for example, I have made in my life comes across very differently to people around. They don't know the real context in which those decisions have been taken. And there's a lot of chatter. There's a
Mm,
lot of chatter. You watch LinkedIn, you have so many templates of how to be and how, but I'm it is very different from individual to individual, from context to context. So it is very important to recognize who you are and to decide what works for you. And don't fall into these traps of labels of, oh, she doesn't care about the family, or oh, look how ambitious she is. These are all just labels. And
correct,
look,
correct.
when you move ahead, like when I look back at a lot of the things that I heard in my early years of my career, early years as a mom, it's
Mhm.
irrelevant
Right.
because, when I see my son and I see it's his journey now, right? So it doesn't matter. So I
Yeah.
just feel that it's very, very important to ensure that you're not affected by these labels. People will
Yeah.
say things anyways, right?
Mhm. So there's a couple more questions. Sumati is asking about are there any challenges that are unique to women agency leaders in the PR industry? And if yes, how did you deal with it? And what's your vision for practice in the context of a changing market and industry landscape? But let's answer the first thing of, did you find anything about a woman-led agency that have you ever felt anything in it, or if not, what is your mantra?
Not, no, not really. I've not looked at it from that lens, except sometimes I do sense discomfort in times when I've had to dictate how a CEO needs to behave or work. And then there is a little bit of discomfort in having, I don't know whether it's just the situation or the counsel, which is tough to digest anyways,
Yeah,
because you were confronted with a harsh truth.
yeah.
I don't know whether it's that, but maybe because I've been delivering it, I've sensed that little bit of a pushback, or I don't know what you want to call it, but an awkwardness. But otherwise, nothing at all, Lakshmi. I actually, I think what I've been pursuing, the goal is so much bigger than any kind of optic, that I think I get subsumed by the
And what is
largeness
that?
and the
What is that bigger vision? What is that bigger vision?
it's I think everything that you do in public relations is not just keeping your business and your product in mind, but it does have a much larger societal, economic, social impact. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what really gives me joy. And even if it's just even a product launched, how to do it right, how to do it creatively, how to do it differently. Even if it is to say, don't do anything, save that money, we'll do something later, but
Mm-hmm.
don't do it now. I think even in that kind of a council, this fun. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where and Lakshmi, we are consultants. We are not just brief takers,
Correct.
right? And therefore, that role of distancing yourself from the problem or any situation and being able to talk truth to power,
Mm-hmm.
um, is really important and often overlooked in what
Correct.
we do.
Correct. Yeah. And there are times, I think, as you said, there is discomfort in the room if a woman is calling, like uh, saying the things. But I think to the extent you can make them also forget that difference, that, hey, the focus is on
Yeah,
the issue. It's not on who's saying it. It's not about being right. It's not about who's the boss. It's about solving that problem, you know. And the more you
absolutely.
focus on that, the less people will think of, uh, man, woman, brown, black, white, tall. I mean, these things do exist, but if you can take the attention away from the, like when my son was younger, somebody said something very smart. Like if the kid is like, going nuts, crying about something or whatever, is like find the distraction, and kids are like so easily distracted. So it's sort of, if they're, and if they are obsessed about something, crying, you just need to know what that distraction is. And it's the same thing if somebody is obsessed about, oh, you're this, you're that, find the distraction and focus on the topic at hand, not on who's saying what, not
Yeah.
about being right. And I think,
And Lakshmi, the opportunities are so many,
yeah,
Of course, when you're in that moment, you do feel it's the end of the world. But
right,
trust me, I think 33 years into a career,
yeah,
sitting where I am, I can tell you there are plenty of other opportunities waiting out there for you. So do not get demotivated by
correct, yeah.
anything.
Right. And last question, there's a question from Zoya. She's saying that you talked about not taking a cookie cutter approach. Can you share an example of two corporate brands, both in the same space, both looking to build thought leadership? Say, for example, strategy. She's saying examples of companies. It doesn't matter. I think the bigger question is, can you give some examples of maybe someone trying to say the same problem, what are two completely different solutions for that could be?
I mean, I would go with what maybe 70-80%, and I hope this doesn't boomerang on me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because-
right.
But let's just say 70-80% of the time you get a brief, right? Which is cookie cutter. Change the name of the company and put another name. It holds good.
Mm-hmm.
So that explains the mindset, right? That, when you give a brief or you're building a brand or a reputation, I want this, I want this, and I want that. So it's a template that you give. On the other hand, and I think what stands close to me is yesterday I was kind of browsing and I came across Zero One by Zeroda.
Mm-hmm.
And this is their foundation. And this is, I think, a platform where they spoke about civic sense. It's a whole video and a campaign around civic sense,
Mm-hmm.
or the campaigns that they do around so many social issues,
Mm-hmm.
fraud but in a very human way. And civic sense, holding a mirror up to over 1 billion Indians and telling them, hey guys, we can do whatever we want, but look, hold the mirror to yourself and see what is it that you are doing
Mm-hmm.
from a civic sense perspective. I think it's very, very brave. And I do feel that companies that engage and do things beyond just promoting their company,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking of the environment in which they operate in and how you try and make that better,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And it's not through, just kind of mouthing words like CSR and so on and so forth, but actually doing it with intent and followed by action. I think those are some of the companies. And, I mean, you started with Infosys, Lakshmi, and this was a company. This
Yeah.
was a company that not just had intent, but also showed so many other Indian companies and so many employees, right, the way forward. So I
Mm-hmm.
think living your intent
Mm-hmm.
with clear action and measurable outcomes, I think that's the differentiator.
And
Um,
also,
um,
I do want to say that there are many financial institutions in the fintech world. Why does Zerodha stand out? It's like what you said in terms of, it's not just about my product will make you 10 times richer. It's how am I using the money I made to show larger education, larger things, whether it's the Infosys Foundation or whether it's the Infosys Prize, or, what is it that companies are doing to make the world a better place for a lot more people by their ability to make money, So I think that
And
is
Lakshmi, we're marching towards 100 years of independence in 1947, right? What is the India we want to see?
correct.
We
Yeah.
are representing businesses and organizations and institutions and entities and individuals. And
Mm,
therefore, and we are actually, in so many ways, the conscience keepers of
mhm.
this stakeholder community. And therefore, what is the role that we play in driving behavior change, not just of society, but their behavior, the owners of businesses, entrepreneurial community, and mobilize them to do things that are just beyond
Right.
self-serving initiatives, right? So I think that really is really the power of what we do.
Sure. So I do want to, we have to end this, and there are a couple of the questions, but I'll just summarize it, in terms of to PR, how do I start, etc. So, and also, actually, there's an interesting one of improve PR at an individual level to help career growth. So I think let's just wrap up on a general conversation about PR, Nandita. I think there's a lot of misconception, in terms of PR means, somebody writing about me in the newspaper, only then it's good PR, etc., which is so much more than that. So maybe you can wrap up by saying, what is your idea of a good PR at an individual as well as a corporate level? What do you strive for in both those scenarios?
I think it's Lakshmi. I will say I keep saying this, but public relations is a management discipline. I think we need to get that, and it's not um, an adjacent or anything. It's a discipline, and it has stakeholders at the center of this discipline, which means I need to understand the business and all the stakeholders that it caters to, every stakeholder, from employees to your supply chain to your customers, consumers, government, community, because you exist in a community, government, and so on and so forth. And how do you as a brand engage with all of these stakeholders directly or indirectly, right?
Mhm.
Because all of them have a stake in the business, and it's important that you kind of survive and thrive. How do you actually create that communication channels and that reputation that allows you to kind of flourish and thrive in that environment? And that is really the length and breadth of what public relations does. So
Even at an
don't look at.
individual level, because I think today there's a lot of individual
Yeah,
brands. People
personal
don't even.
branding is not, just because you're active on LinkedIn does not make it does not make, and there's no such thing as good PR or bad PR, right? I mean, that's just like the perception, but I just feel that that is really, even for individuals, it's how
Mhm.
do you want to be, again, intent. What is it that, who are you, and how do you demonstrate that, and how do you actively bring who you are to life? And that's that you oft used word these days, authenticity. And how do
Yeah,
you bring that authenticity to that table in everything that you do? Which means that you have to shave off many things that are trending because it's not
yeah,
authentic to you,
right.
right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have to know when not to say something
yeah.
instead of just jumping into a conversation to have a point of view, right? That also is part of our work. So
Yeah,
it's as much as about what we do as it is about what do we not do,
correct.
which
Yeah.
makes you who you are and makes you a strong, authentic brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So I want to wrap up by saying that, Nandita, thank you so much. I think we learned a lot about public relations. And I want to wrap up by saying, one of the things we all have to remember, be it in a personal brand or a professional brand, that every aspect, whether it's human, the HR function you have, or a PR that you have, or accounting that you have, whatever you have is has to be given equal importance as a strategy and not just one. If it's like, if my numbers are correct, everything else will fall in place, or if my public image is correct, everything will fall in place. It's a joint effort that has to be done where everything is given equal importance. And for a great leader, I think it's important to look at everything and not just numbers, or not just how many articles have been written about me. I mean, it's a combined approach. And thank you so much for, I do want to say this word authentic is also become a manufactured word nowadays.
Absolutely.
So I think we have to be careful to be truly authentic to the word authentic. So with that,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that up. And we wrap up. Here is to a world where we can be the best versions of ourselves and be truly authentic. Thank you very much, Nandita.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Hope to see you soon now.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye
Thanks,
bye.
Avneet. Bye bye. Thanks for
Have a great
organizing
day.
this.